Hi, my name is Angela Davis, and today I'm going to be sharing with you about person centered theory. Initially, this was not my theory of choice, but as I continued learning more and more about it, I became very drawn to it for some specific reasons, which I'll share along the way. So, what is person centered therapy? This was created by Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers was a Christian fundamentalist who studied clinical psychology at Columbia University, and his approach was to have a very non judgmental therapeutic environment. And I thought this was really important to note um, because as I move forward in my career as a counselor, it is very easy to say I'm going to exist within a very non judgmental environment, but there may be people or things that trigger some sort of judgment um, that may exist for me, and I want to keep into account how important it is to create a space where people really get to say and be who they are throughout a healing process. With that being said, person centered therapy is a humanistic or existential humanistic approach. It stresses the whole individual and it stresses concepts such as free will and self actualization. These are really important concepts to me. Understanding who I am, why I do things the way I do, being myself, wanting to learn from my previous mistakes and move forward. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you the person-centered therapy timeline. It definitely evolved over time, as many have. So initially, Rogers called his approach non-directive counseling. And so the idea was to do what no one else was doing and to approach clients with a listening ear without hopes of giving them advice or them just doing whatever you told them to do. In the 1950s, that evolved and the name changed into client-centered therapy because Rogers wanted to put an emphasis on client leadership, really saw the client as the expert within the client-counselor relationship, and this was really important. In the 1960s, that name was changed to person centered therapy, which I actually really like a lot. I think client is a definition of a person, but really that person sitting there, it makes it that much more powerful, calling it person centered therapy. And this focus was on self development and just the person being their mover of their own change. And so, yes, the counseling environment is important, but ultimately people choose and decide to change. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Rogers is noted as playing a big role in focusing on world peace and interracial relationships, which obviously was very important at the time. So PCT approaches include two theories, a theory of psychotherapy, which focuses on a failure to learn from experiences, and then a theory of personality, which focuses on four core features. The first being self theory, which places the person sort of in the center of their own world. So, who is this all about? Phenomenology, which is the valuing of our own experiences. Learning and growth potential, which is just the movement towards self actualization. And I'm going to try to put this up here real quick. And then conditions of worth or standards met to be considered worthy. So the best of person-centered therapy, in my opinion, is that the client is the expert. And full trust is placed on the client. Like this is a huge parenting skill as well, I think, that people can look at and acknowledge as being like a wonderful thing. When we put full trust in someone, I think there's a confidence build, and that's a really phenomenal thing. Another piece of it is congruence. So the counselor is being real with the client is being real, and the counselor is not afraid of expressing both positive and negative feelings about something that might be going on or being talked about. Unconditional positive regard is a big piece of person centered therapy, and it's an unconditional respect for the client, regardless of feelings or beliefs. The other piece is an empathetic understanding. It builds a deep client counselor relationship so that client fears can dissolve and the things that need to be talked about can come forward. So there's three types of empathy that are very important too: subjective, objective, and interpersonal. And all of these play a role in person-centered therapy.